Hey friends, in this video, we're going to talk about meditation 4, in which Descartes talks about judgments and truth and falsity. So where are we? Well, in meditation 1, Descartes introduces his claims about systematic doubt. Right, that maybe this is a dream, maybe we're all being deceived by a demon, etc. We don't have reason to trust the external world in these cases. Meditation 2, Descartes proved his own existence, right? He knows that he exists, and he knows that his thoughts exist. In meditation 3, Descartes proves God's existence. And by the way, when I'm using proves in these cases, I'm using that as another way of saying he has argued for, right? Which is more accurate. He's offering premises in defense or in support of a conclusion, but whether or not these are decisive is a separate question. So they are arguments for God's existence, not necessarily proofs for God's existence, because at least to my mind, the word proof is associated with mathematics and with logic, and the kind of security, the kind of sureness, the kind of certainty we have in those cases doesn't apply here. Anyway, we have his argument for God's existence in the third meditation. And so, what we get in the fourth meditation is a reflection on how we can avoid error. So, why would this come now? Well, after having proved God's existence, and of course, what comes along with this is that we ourselves, Descartes sort of reflecting on himself, but we ourselves are created by God. And so we get this weird situation that Descartes, probably very influenced by his Jesuit education, is thinking, well, if God created us, then why are we flawed, right? Why would God create flawed beings? And so he wants to get to an understanding of how it is we make bad judgments. How are we wrong about things? And spoiler alert, it's our fault, right? It's not God's fault. So, there are a few mental capacities, a few of our psychological abilities that are involved with forming judgments. So, one of them is the intellect, right? The part of us that does the thinking, the cogitating, right? It's that part of us where we try to figure out a math problem, or when we are sort of figuring out what it is that we should do. That second one, sort of. So we have the intellect. We also have the will, right, which is our capacity to choose. Right? And judgments are functions of both the intellect and the will. So, for example, I have my coffee mug here, right? So I look at my coffee mug and I think to myself, this coffee mug is a dark blue. It kind of shows up black in the image here, but just trust me, it's a dark blue. Maybe you should trust me. So my perceptual faculties, right, with my intellect, make a judgment that I'm perceiving something, or they arrive at the conclusion that I am perceiving something blue. Importantly, I am perceiving something blue. And then my will says this, right, I am now choosing to believe that this thing is blue. So notice the subtle difference there. It's a difference between what I am perceiving and then what I infer about the world, right? So I perceive a blue mug there to this mug is blue. The first one is a claim about me. The second is a claim about this object right here. So when I make claims about objects, I am asserting my will. I am making a choice of sorts to say how the world is. So for Descartes, we make bad judgments. We make mistakes in our judgments whenever the will outruns the intellect. So we make errors in judgment when the will outruns the intellect. What does that mean? Well, all it really means is that we make mistakes when we form opinions, when we make judgments, without having all of the information. Right? So this seems pretty straightforward. Mistakes come up when we make judgments, when we sort of make up our mind without all of the relevant information. So that's cool. But then the next question is what does it mean to have all the relevant information, right? What does it mean to have the information you need? And Descartes in this meditation gives us a criterion. He says that we should only judge that which we perceive to be clear and distinct, right? I'll repeat it. We should only judge that which we perceive to be clear and distinct. What does that mean? Well, clarity, right? So clarity means that we can identify all members or all things that belong within a particular category. Distinctness is we can identify members of that category and we exclude anything that doesn't belong in that category. So here's an example for you. Triangles. So we know what it is to identify, right? We know what triangles are. We know how to identify triangles. Triangles are figures that have 3 sides, 3 angles, and the sum of the interior angles is 180 degrees. That is to say that we have clarity about what it takes for a shape to be a triangle. But we also know how to exclude non-triangles. So if we have a circle, for instance, our circle does not have any corners, and so we can exclude it from the category triangle, right? A circle isn't an instance of a triangle. So in other words, we can sort out triangles from non-triangles. We have a clear and distinct perception of triangles. So, with this tool, right, with this sort of sorting device for our concepts, we can begin to figure out those things that will lead us into error and those things that won't lead us into error. So, we did it with triangles. We can do it with circles. We can do it with squares. You might be noticing a pattern here. It's really easy with geometric objects. It's also fairly easy with all mathematical objects. But when we apply this tool of clarity and distinctness to the world around us, things start to get a little tricky, right? So for example, again, we have my mug, right? So we might begin teasing or articulating everything that makes my mug the thing that it is. But what if I were to have a little cappuccino cup, right? A little espresso cup, right? Surely we'd say that my coffee mug is different from an espresso mug. But what exactly is the difference? Well, obviously it's the size, right? Espresso cups are about this tall, coffee mugs are about this tall, right? But what about all those sizes of cups in between? Where's our cutoff line? And so this is just one small example for how clarity and distinctness works really well with mathematical objects, but not with physical objects. So we have then one shortcoming in Descartes' account of pursuing the truth and avoiding what's false. Namely, his account sets the bar too high for what it means to know something or to know the truth of things. Because to know the truth of things, We have to have a clear and distinct perception of them.